Mitch, what have you seen so far in the in the forms that have come in? What are you looking at? What excites you about this upcoming season?
Boy, quite a bit. Greg, there's a lot of intrigue this season. I think we're going to see a lot of teams that have to replace quite a bit of offensive production. I'm looking at Sterling in that perspective. A Princeton team has to reload a lot. So, and then you see your traditional teams, Lena Winslow, where Coach Aaron says they need to improve everywhere. I
Yeah.
don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that at all. But I think we're going to see a really good mix of teams that bring back a lot of starters, a lot of experience, teams that in the past have been younger, and now those players are much more experienced now. And yeah, I think there's conference races that are wide open. I think there's some traditional champs that might have some teams a little bit closer on their heels than previous years. So um, certainly a team that we're both excited about, Quincy, is this year that they break through in the Western Big Six. Yeah, just so much intrigue. We're really looking forward to seeing how it shakes out.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the Western Big Six, I think Quincy's kind of that team that we looked at last year and thought like there's a lot of potential there, and they lived up to it for the most part. And they fell a little bit short against Sterling. They fell short against Moline, but other than that, they're right there. And so I think
Yeah,
this year, as a year older, a year more mature, I got a lot of pieces back. That's a team that they should be making some noise. They should
yeah.
be in the mix, I would think, definitely, along with the names you mentioned, the Moline, the Sterling. What's Rock Island look like with Fritz Deodone stepping in as head coach?
Well,
There's and
that's
Geneseo was improving last year. So
well, and that's a great point too. Coaches, or sorry, teams with new coaches, Rock Island, Morrison, Erie Prophetstown.
yeah,
So we got a lot of new faces on the sidelines as well. So yeah, another season. We see things like this, of course, every year. So the excitement just doesn't go away. So yeah, I think there's a lot of intrigue, and I can't wait. Again, can't wait to see how it all plays out this year.
yeah, Mitch, a team you just mentioned with the new head coach is Morrison.
Yeah.
And it's a name you're familiar with. Nate Vandermeide steps in as head coach. He's been an assistant out there for a while now. Obviously, played quarterback, for
Mhm.
the Mustangs. Back when they were just on the verge of becoming, a state champion. I think he was a year before they made their first run. Correct?
Yeah, so he went to the semifinals and then
Yep.
the quarterfinals, and I think it was the team after that
Yeah.
because that was when Danny Dennehy was there. So yeah, I believe it was the next season, if not the second season. But yeah, he was right in that really good stretch of Morrison football. He was right at the heart of it.
And I think he takes over at a really interesting time where last year, Morrison had been down the year before. And then all of a sudden it was like, they played really well last year and made the playoffs and
Hmm.
just a lot of young talent down the field. That's what we kept hearing and kept seeing.
Yeah,
So I'm really curious with a pretty good roster returning, pretty athletic, fast roster. Where
yeah,
does that team end up?
yeah. Their preview from Friday Night Drive, and I apologize to who the reporter was, but the quote from one of the players was that their speed was going to kill, and I believe that they have guys going back. They started freshmen and sophomores last year, Greg. So this is a very, very exciting team. Looking at their schedule, pretty favorable too. They don't have Newman on the schedule, which I don't know when the last time that was, but favorable schedule for the Mustangs this year. So yeah, one of my teams to look for certainly in the Three Rivers this year. Their last season in the Three Rivers.
Yeah, that's also kind of an interesting note there. Another team speaking of the Three Rivers, I've been hearing a lot about Sherrard. We saw
Yeah,
them. They had some talent on the field last year, some young talent. Can they keep that momentum building? Coach Johnston, we talked about him when he was hired, that we felt like that was such a good hire because he was someone that could really build that program. And I felt like it's right there. They're kind of knocking on the door. I know Ty Taylor's very excited about what he's seen out there. So that's one to follow for sure. What other schools? You start looking at a team like Roval Williamsfield. If we
yeah,
if we move over into the Lincoln Land Conference.
yeah. Another team that we talked up last year as a team that started a lot of younger guys, underclassmen, or at least juniors, bringing a lot back. So I think we put in our little preview tweet about them that we think their eyes are on a title this year. I certainly believe that because, again, with the experience that they bring back, a lot of starters on both sides of the ball. Really looking forward to seeing what the Cougars will do this year.
Yeah.
Again, another playoff run, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's, Roval Williamsfield, Anawan Weathersfield. You look at, they kind of separate themselves on the top of the small school side, I believe. with some other names maybe in the mix, but then on that big school side, that's a really interesting conference. When you look through with names like Macomb that had a great year last year, you look
Mhm.
at Mercer County that's always in the mix in what was the Lincoln Trail. Farmington has had a competitive team year in and year out. Trying to think of who else. Elmwood Brimfield has been a good team, solid program over the years.
Illini
That
West, yeah.
Illini West, yes, that conference is really interesting. I'm excited to follow that conference race as well.
Yeah, you talk about a big conference preview with Three Rivers, the new LLC. That one's going to probably
Yeah, that's
battle
true.
it for longest preview because there are quite a few new teams. That's exciting, right? New teams to cover this year.
Yes, we do have, yeah, new teams that haven't really been they've been in our periphery, but we haven't really focused in on them like a Farmington or a Macomb. So yeah,
Yeah,
that'll make for some longer episodes, which
yeah,
so
right.
more
We'll,
content, I
we'll,
guess we'll keep cranking
we'll,
out.
we'll see new teams in the regular season too. We
Yep.
talked about Lena Winslow. They play out of conference against St. Teresa, which is going to be awesome. I think St. Teresa plays EPC too, so we'll see them a couple times. We'll see games that we're looking forward to that we haven't or that we don't normally see. Sterling and Princeton. Is it Geneseo and Mendota? I think.
Yep. Yep. That's another
Um,
one.
Newman and Rock Island. I mean, what
Yeah.
circumstances would that ever happen? So there's a lot of fun matchups this year that we haven't seen before that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, and before we wrap this up, we have to talk about the Northwest Upstate Illini. I mean, you talk about the conference is fun to cover every year. You have Lena Winslow, obviously back, defending state champions.
Yep.
Yeah, where do they come into this season? I think they're right there. They're right in the mix again. But Forreston made a run to the semifinals after going 5-4. Looked like a
Mhm.
very talented football team as well. You have Dupec, who's been continually on the rise. Where's Dakota fit into this mix? Where's Fulton fit into this mix?
Yep.
It's that conference is always fun to watch. So
Yeah, can't wait for that 8-man. Speaking of
yep.
the NUSU, Amboy could be the favorite in 8-man this year with what they bring back. So, and certainly the 8-man landscape looks a lot different with players in different places. Teams not feeling a team this year. So, yeah, another season. Same excitement, new challenges for everybody, and yeah, can't wait to get into it.